Good morning. We are going to make an oil pastel sunset, and I'd like to thank Gabi for the idea for this project. She was working on something very similar for independent art, and I thought it just turned out beautifully, so I snagged it as a project for us. Let's get started. Go ahead and take a piece of your mixed media paper, open up your sketchbook to a nice clean page, and tape your mixed media pad onto your page. Try to line up your tape so that it creates an even border and so that the pieces of tape are parallel to the edge of your paper. By working in your sketchbook and taping it to your sketchbook, if you don't quite get finished in one day, you'll be able to just close your sketchbook and pull it out the next day in order to finish. Okay, so we're going to start with a plan, and the plan is that this is going to be an image as if you're looking up into the sky and there's beautiful clouds and there's a telephone or electric pole with lines coming out of the electric pole. So let's go ahead and build it up. We're going to start by using just a straight edge. You can use your color wheel or one of your other plastic value charts, whatever works for you for a straight edge. And we're going to start by making our pole that's going to be bottom and to the left. So if you break up your page into 4 equal quadrants, then it's going to be bottom and to the left. I somehow managed to lose my HB pencil, so I'm just going to be using this pencil, which is a number 2 pencil, and we know that a number 2 pencil is an HB pencil. Okay, so I'm going to start by making a little dot. That's going to be the top of my pole, and a little line that goes across. You can see it's about half the width of my finger. It's pretty small. And then I'm using my straight edge to go ahead and draw that pole in. And again, it's maybe 1, 2, 3, 4, it's maybe a quarter of the page high, and it's hugging the left-hand side. This will create a nice visual point of interest. And then we're going to identify where those lines are, the phone lines or electric lines that are coming out of this. It's going to be starting just from the bottom down a little bit, and we'll make 3 lines coming off to the right, and they're all coming from the same spot. So we're starting to get a sense of perspective. 3 lines that are coming out and toward the top. And then we're going to do the same thing on the other side, and these are going to be coming out and toward the top as well. By making these lines all vanish at the same location, then it's going to really create this sense of perspective, which is super nice. And then we're going to have a light that's on top of this, and so we're going to go ahead and make another line that is coming out even higher, even at you can kind of see how these are lines are radiating out from the pole, kind of like a sun and sun rays, how they are radiating away from the center. And this pole, or this little light fixture, is going to come up. Maybe I made that a little bit too long. That's why we have erasers, right? It's going to come out, and then it's going to come down, and we're going to have kind of a circle here, which is the top of it, and then this is going to be kind of like an older looking light. It's a little bit different from Gabi's, and then like a bell shape upside down, and make the bottom of it an oval so that it looks like we're looking up to it, and then the light is going to be actually extending down from there. So these are lights not too unlike what we see in Cornelius and in Davidson, so I thought it would be kind of nice. Something like that. You can make yours a little bit different. Maybe bell, maybe a little shape, but a little bit of a bell, something like that. Okay. Now we're going to plan our clouds and our trees. And so we're going to have some clouds up here, and the sky is going to be peeking through the clouds. It's going to be beautiful. We're going to have big cumulus clouds. So irregularly fluffy. I'm doing an irregular line and covering this upper left-hand corner with clouds, and then doing something kind of similar, but we want it to be irregular. We don't want the right side and the left side to look the same. So I'm really kind of creating these clouds, but the idea is that I'm also shaping what is the sky in between the clouds. So maybe we have a little smaller one, and maybe we have another big one. Clouds can be all kinds of shapes. Maybe we have one in here. It's coming down behind our post. And maybe we have some smaller ones. Now, one of our design ideas, now one of our elements of art is space. And so when you look at the space that the clouds create, also look at the space that's created between the clouds. And if you feel like this is an interesting shape that's been created between the clouds, then you're on to something. If you feel like it's too uninteresting, then you might want to erase something, you might want to adjust something. I think it might be interesting to have this cloud kind of have another little form in there. I feel like this might be a little too narrow. So you can add a couple of little clouds. Clouds need to vary in shape, right? So if this one is small, the one next to it should be smaller or larger. Clouds are organic and they're different from each other. We're also going to create some trees down here, and we're going to mimic the shapes of the clouds. So we're going to have, we're going to do the same thing, only these are going to be trees. And something like that. Once you're totally happy with your clouds, go ahead and get your calligraphy pens. And let's use the small. By the way, just so that you know, it is really easy for these caps to get switched. And since the caps is what tells you what size pen you have, it can be very confusing when that happens. So always take an actual look at your pens to make sure that the pen size coordinates with the cap. So you really do want to make sure that you're happy with the shape of your clouds before you start doing any pen work. And then you can do your pen work. I'm using the small pen. And I really like how the pen, if you press down, it makes a stronger line, a thicker line, a heavier weight line. And if you don't press down very hard, then it is a thinner line. So I'm going to do a thinner line on top of my clouds and then a thicker line on the bottom of the clouds. So I'm pressing whenever I come along the bottom of the clouds, I'm pressing a little. So here is a standalone cloud, and I'm just going to use the tip of my pen, and then as I come along the bottom, I'm strengthening that with a little bit more pressure. In fact, there are places that I even like just leave little, kind of like little dots on the clouds. Maybe this one has a little opening in it. And then as I get to the bottom, a little bit more pressure helps to define the bottom a little bit more. A little bit of very lightweight on top, pressure on the bottom. Lightweight, nice thin line on top, pressure on the bottom. There we go. Those clouds are organic, so irregular shape is what we're looking for. And then our trees are very cloud-like. And that's just fine. Okay. Now for my post, I'm going to switch to my fine point Sharpie. And go ahead and use my straight edge. The fine tip Sharpie does a better job of, of coloring in jet black than my brush pens. And again, I'm going to use my small brush and trace over the shape of my lantern in order to make this look like the light is inside. I'm going to leave the light white so that it looks light. And then everything else I'm coloring in black because it's just going to be in silhouette. And I can go ahead and with my small tip brush, can put in my lines, phone or electrical. Again, you're using pen at this point, so you want to make sure that you're happy with it before you start inking it. You can always erase if you need to with your pencil, but you can't erase once you get to the pen. Okay, oh, I love this. All right, let's go ahead and get our colors going. So we're going to go sky all through here. And we're going to have it be sunset sky. So we're going to start with a cobalt. And then we're going to move to a sky blue. And then we're going to move to a, maybe put a purple in there. And then a red. And then a pink. And then this beige right down at the very bottom. So those are the colors that we're going to use. So we're going to take our cobalt blue, this is our brightest blue, and we're just gonna go nice and slow up against those clouds. So that when we blend it, we still have our clouds defined. We'll come down a little ways. You can decide how far with the blue. And you can see that there's kind of a horizontal kind of shading with horizontal in here. And so you continue over. If your horizontal brings your blue over, depending on your cloud shape, you may or may not have the exact same negative space that I have. Now I'm going to overlap blue into blue. So now I'm going to do some shading that's very, very light, very, very light, just barely touching my paper. And now I'm going to overlap this area that I was very light on with my next color. So I'm coming back in and blending into that light area with my light blue. Now I'm coming down a little ways with my light blue, coming over into this negative space, like so. And again, you can decide how far you want to come down with that light blue. Then you feel like it's about time to switch. Then you want to do a little bit of very, very light, very little pressure, just barely touching the page. And come down a little ways with that very light pressure so that you can overlap with your next color. Come in here and do some heavy pressure, light pressure. All right, in this area of light pressure, we're going to come in and do this purple. And we're doing some light purple in here, just like this. Purple. That's Gideon. A little bit of light purple on top of that light blue. We're overlapping that. And now we're going to do a little bit more pressure, a little harder. Oops, look, there's a little bit of purple in there. Ooh, I love this. Now we're doing some heavier pressure. A lot of oil pastels is about the pressure that you use. Okay. More pressure. Yeah, this is looking good. Okay. All right. Now, as you come down, you can decide how far you want to go. However far you want to go. You want to come back and, again, in your transition zone, light pressure, light. Because this is where the overlap zone is. You're going to overlap another color. The next color is going to be pink. Going to overlap that pink. So really light, so that you can, oh, nope, just kidding. I thought it was pink, it's actually red. So now we're going to get into our red, and we're coming back into that overlap zone with this beautiful red. Really slow up against those clouds. And you definitely want to avoid this lamp because you want it to remain white. In the overlap zone, you're just kind of medium pressure, and then you can do a little more pressure. Our goal is to have it not be stripy. We want it to be nice, nicely blended. Okay, very light pressure into pink. And then very light pressure into peach. I think I followed all of the colors in the same order that Gabi did, except I think maybe I added purple in there. That is pretty close to what she did because it was awesome. Okay, so let's go ahead and blend this. We like to blend with cotton balls or with Q-tips. It just depends on the area that we're blending. This is a very delicate, small, winding area. So I feel like it's too delicate to use the cotton balls on. I feel like I'll end up smearing it into my clouds. I really want to blend from the bottom up. Do you guys know why? I'll tell you. The bottom is the lightest colors, and you always want to blend from light into dark. Because if I were to blend down for my blue, I would be dragging this dark blue all the way down, and I would lose some of the vibrance of the lighter, brighter colors down here at the bottom. So I'm actually going to flip my plan and blend from the bottom up. Now, if I did a pretty good job of overlapping, then probably my colors will blend like a beautiful, smooth ombre from one color into the next. That's kind of what I'm hoping. And you can kind of use the blending from your Q-tip too in order to kind of help you have a smooth transition. We're trying not to have this rainbow effect, but we're trying to have smooth transitions, because if you look at the sky when it is sunsetty, then it does tend to be a beautiful transition from color to color. Notice that I am doing horizontal blending. That is because the sky itself tends to feel horizontal, and this will help us have a sense of perspective and distance. Now, when your Q-tip starts to feel gummy and it starts to feel like it's not blending into the page, then you can definitely get a new Q-tip. You might lose a little bit of vibrancy as you switch Q-tips or as you start blending, and that's okay. You can always have the opportunity to come back and add more oil pastel if you want it to be more vibrant. I love the way that oil pastel starts by looking like crayon and then ends up looking like almost like paint. Go real slow when you get around those clouds. You want to try to preserve the cloud edge, the edges of those clouds. Okay, maybe I'll switch this over. Oopsie, get up there. Sometimes you can use the color that's on the Q-tip in areas that maybe were shaded just a little too lightly. One of the things I love about this project is that it uses white as a color. And since the color of the clouds is white, then it's so brilliant because we just leave those, we color everything except for the clouds. And you get this gorgeous sky and these really interesting clouds. That is an artist's trick, is to use the white of the paper as a color. Sometimes if you're coloring, gosh, something that is snowy, you can just leave the area that's snowy unpainted and it will look like snow. Or if you are painting maybe like an animal that's white, a dog or cat or something like that, you can color everything around that animal so that it seems like that animal is white. Go super slow around those clouds, trying to preserve the shape of the clouds. I do want to get everything, all of the sky around the clouds. I want to blend that in. But I'm trying not to go into the clouds too much. We have a little something to do with the clouds later that's going to be fun. Just love this. Gabi, this was such a great idea. By the way, I want to say, I know that when she did her oil pastel of the clouds, she was actually using 3 reference images. So she did not find this project online and do it exactly like what she found online. She didn't copy somebody else. She actually found 3 different images, reference images, and she put them together to make them her own. Isn't that so brilliant? Okay, we're getting up to the top, folks. And our sky has this beautiful ombre. Now, if you get to this point and you think, I need a little bit more purple, or I need a little bit more pink, maybe some of the colors got blended out, or maybe you just want it to be a little bit more vivid, or maybe yours is looking a little bit rainbowy and you want to try to blend them so that they're smoother ombre effect, then you can absolutely come back in. If I wanted to like maybe add some more of the light blue in here coming into my purple, for instance, then you can definitely do another layer of light blue into your purple. Actually, that doesn't seem like a bad idea. If you wanted to, say, bring the pink up further into the red, you can definitely do that. Bring some pink up into the red, and then you just come back in with another Q-tip and you blend it in. So you can rework multiple layers until you are satisfied with what you see. Maybe I'll bring some more purple down into the red so that there's a little bit more. And you just blend until you're happy with it. Most of art is not about knowing where you're going exactly, but kind of finding your way there. So take the time to step back and look at it and say, what do I need to adjust in order for me to be happier within? And then make those adjustments as you go. Sometimes it just takes one thing, one adjustment, one thing that's a little bit better to make you feel better about the whole project. Okay, now what's really cool and what I saw Gabi do is that the clouds are white, but you can kind of shape the underside of the clouds just a little bit, and we don't even have to use more oil pastels because we already have oil pastels from our blended Q-tips. So what you can do is the area where it's in the purpley, then find one of your Q-tips that has some purpley blue, and then you can lightly on the underside of your clouds, you can, doing like little circles, you can start to develop some sense of the underside of the clouds. Isn't that neat? Bring it right down to the bottom. And maybe there's a little bit on top too. Okay, up here, maybe there's a little bit of the blue. And I'm just doing a little bit of shading on the bottom of the clouds. You can kind of pick and choose where. And irregular shapes. Maybe I like the little bit of purple up here too. Ooh, that looks really nice. So irregular shapes on the bottom help to make this cloud look a little bit irregular. Okay, let's see. Get some of this. Ooh, that's looking good. Some very cloudy, fluffy, cloudy. And super soft. I want that to be nice and soft. Oopsie. Maybe that needs a little bit more blue in it. Just along the bottom, kind of give that sense. And the shape of that kind of shadow is kind of irregular too. So you can kind of, your shapes might be a little bit different than mine, then that's okay. We're just trying to give the sense of these fluffy clouds, and just by using that extra color that's on the bottom of our Q-tip. Maybe this shadow gets a little bit bigger here, a little bit smaller. Ah, I think that is so cool. Let's see. It's a little bit bigger here, and maybe down here. Just to give it a little something. Okay, the last thing that we have to do are the trees down here, and so we have a really dark green. Let's take a look at that. So that's not bad as far as tree colors, but it's still a little too green for me. The reason is because this is such a bright, vivid sky that the clouds or rather the phone pole and the light is almost in silhouette, right? So we want these trees to almost be in silhouette too. So we almost want them to be black. So I'm gonna just test something. Oopsie. it's always great when you have an idea but you don't know exactly if it's going to work, to use your sketchbook to see if something is going to work. So I'm just going to see if I actually color in my trees black, and then if I add a little bit of green on top of them and then blend that in. Ooh, I like that a lot because it's just a super dark green that feels like it's in silhouette. This is much, much more consistent than just my bright green. So I'm going to take my Sharpie, now that I know that I like that, and I'm going to just color in. And I'm going to do something that I feel like is fun. Right in here, a couple of places, I have this little like negative space that's inside my cloud. And I'm going to do that here and here on my trees. I'm going to fill that in with my sky color, which is going to be pink or that kind of beige color. I really want to make sure that my Sharpie, by the way, I definitely recommend using the Sharpie. In order to blend, or rather in order to color this in, because the Sharpie will work a lot better. It'll make it a lot darker and you won't see as many strokes as if you were using your brush tip pens. Okay, and then I'm going to come over here. Nice and black. Really come up to the edge of that tape. Might try to do another little window breaking through. We'll see if that works out. And in these windows, so you can actually like add little tiny lines that indicate like little branches, which I really like. To help differentiate from the trees to the clouds. And I'll come back in, and since this is kind of where my beige and my pink are, then I'll bring that beige in there, and then the beige to pink. And I'll take my littlest Q-tip and just blend that, and look at that. Looks more like a tree than a cloud. That's great. Now I'm going to take my darkest green, and I'm just going to go over the black. Oh, I love how that turned out. So that it gives a very, very dark green. I mean, yeah, dark green, super dark. And just blend it. Oopsie. You can decide how much you want to blend it. I want to still see some of that green, but like just really super dark green. Okay. There you go. Great job. Might even come back in with just a little bit of detail here. think that's kind of how the Davidson lights have this little thing. But I have a double. Something like that. All right, great job, guys. Thank you, Gabi.